Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, so we're looking at the market right now, and obviously there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's been this huge drop that's recently happened, and that's obviously caused even more uncertainty and a lot of division now in terms of where we are within this market cycle, right? And so Lambo, a very prominent XRP community member and YouTuber, he's been dropping content lately, and to be honest with you, his thought process hasn't changed, but I've been seeing that he's been getting a lot of backlash, and so I wanted to address this because one, obviously I wanted to address what my thoughts are on Lambo's stance, but also just where I think we are personally within the market, right? Because I am someone who's been through a bear market and a bull market, so I was just going to give you my opinion on that as well. So, okay, Lambo, as I say, he's a very popular XRP influencer. Now, I want to start off by saying this before we even get into this. I think Lambo is a really good content creator. He has a lot of great XRP knowledge. He's definitely not a hype poster. He definitely, he's been someone who's debunked many false theories about XRP and stuff like that. So he's on the right side of history, right? He's a good content creator when it comes to XRP. But the thing that we've been getting to now is what his content has been, even though it's on the realistic side and where we are within the market. And so I'm not obviously going to go too deep into this, but I'm going to just give you the overall thought process of Lambo's thought, and then we'll go into where we are in the market. So Lambo has always had a perspective of long term, right? That's always been his mindset. His mindset has always been long term. So his thought process is he will just buy his cryptos, XRP being one of them, the biggest one, and then he will just wait however long it takes to get his life-changing wealth. Now, I want to make this clear. That realistically is the right mindset. It is, because for a lot of the people who are frustrated right now, the reason why they are frustrated is because they want the profit, right? They've been in XRP for however many years. They're fed up. Now, that's not to say that I don't understand people who are fed up. You've got every right to be fed up. I get it. The market has been very strange, and XRP, it's really been unlucky, to be honest with you. Ever since like 2017, it had that huge run, and it's really not been that great for XRP ever since. Now, obviously, we can't attribute all that just to XRP alone. We know we had the SEC lawsuit. That's done damage. We've had certain situations like that, and also just the market playing out as the market plays out, right? So there's been numerous factors that have played into this. But Lambo has consistently been dropping videos, and sometimes it's been like things could be just around the corner. Lambo saying we just need to be a little bit more patient, and kind of being a bit vague with his wording, all right? And I think that's what started to cause a bit of backlash on his content, because a lot of people have been, patient. They've been listening to him saying, yes, the best is yet ahead, as he would constantly say. And I think they're getting to a point now where it's like, look, you keep saying this. You keep saying that these analysts are around, saying it's just around the corner and we've got to wait a little bit longer. But you've been saying this for like years now. And I do understand what they're saying. I do understand their point. Like, this is something I have seen as a common trend in Lambo's content. He is consistently saying, it's just a little bit longer. But the thing with Lambo is he is very careful with his wording. Like, when he says it's just a little bit longer, he says, look, like, just a little bit longer doesn't necessarily mean today, tomorrow, to next month. Like, it could be a year or so, whatever. So it's one of those kind of things where I understand for his audience, it can kind of feel a bit like the dangling carrot, right? Like, you just keep chasing this thing and it's always going further and further away. You can never quite grasp it. And so I do understand where they're coming from. This is where the situation comes with Lambo, right? In my opinion, I think the thing is that he's not wrong, but he's also not right. Okay. So what I mean by that is he's not wrong because, as he's saying, look, like, we have got to wait longer. You've got to have patience and things like that. That is true. That is absolutely true. And yes, when he's saying, things like it's just a little bit further, it's almost there, we're getting close. Well, again, that is subjective, right? So I think that's where the frustration comes, because what he could deem as is just around the corner could be completely different to what somebody else would deem is just around the corner. So for him, just around the corner to him could mean 5 years, because he might say, well, 5 years is nothing, because again, when you compare stuff like this to the stock market, if you're trying to get rich in the stock market, you could be waiting 20 years. So when you say just around the corner in terms of crypto and you say, well, I've did it in another 5 years, yeah, a lot of people might still say, well, compared to the stock market, that was very quick. That was just around the corner. Do you see what I mean? And so it's one of these things where I can understand where the audience are coming from, because if it happens tomorrow, then it's happened quick, right? It has happened very quick. But if it happens in like another year, it's one of those things of like, well, you kept saying it's around the corner, but for years you've been saying that, and it's the same kind of thing. So look, I want to say this, like Lambo is not a hype influencer. Like he's not someone who just pushes, false narratives about XRP or anything like that. I think the thing with Lambo is he's a glass half full kind of guy. He's very much an optimist. So I think every, perspective he looks at with XRP is always with complete optimism, and to me, this is the thing that I will say. You can be an optimist, you can be a pessimist. I don't think it's good to be too far on either side. I think you want to be in the middle, right? And as usually people will say, you want to be a realist, right? Because being too optimistic, it's like you're always just seeing the good in everything, right? You just, even in the worst kind of situations, you're not just looking and saying, yeah, actually, that wasn't the best. Like, that's not great. Being negative, you're seeing the worst in everything, right? Sometimes you might think something's, the worst thing in the world, but really it's not as bad as what you're making it out to be. So I think it's always best to be a little bit in the middle. And I think with Lambo, the issue is that I think he's very much into the optimism side. So he's always just seeing everything from a positive lens. And I think that's where the issue comes in, to be completely honest with you. So this is what I will say. Like I said before, in terms of Lambo, and I know he's not going to see this because I'm such a small channel, but I hope he's not seeing that as disrespect, because I've tried to be very very positive about him, because I do think he's a very good content creator, and I do want to make that clear. But I can understand where some of the backlash is coming. Oh yeah, just one other quick thing as well I'll say just before I move on. I think the thing as well with Lambo is, I will say sometimes his content is getting a bit repetitive, and it's a thing of like, that you start to get like a formula of what Lambo is saying, and it's, there's certain words that you'll always hear from Lambo, and I think when you watch his content, when he's speaking about the market, it's always the same thing. Now, I will say this as a content creator myself, where I will give a bit of grace to him, where I can understand is because, one, as a content creator, when you're making videos like daily, he makes like 3 videos a day or something like that, it's going to get to a point where, you are going to start to say some things over and over, like it's just naturally going to happen. But the other thing I will say is, you, as a content creator, sometimes you are thinking about like newer audiences coming in as well, right? So you think, well, what if a new viewer was to come in? They've not heard me say these things. So although my core audience have heard all this before, newer audience members won't. So I need to say these things so they can hear it too. I think the thing with that is you've got to tread that fine line, right? Because yes, you are correct. New audience members will not have heard that perspective. But at the same time, you could lose your core audience because they are getting fed up of hearing the same old thing. So it's that fine line, right? It's that balance. Right. So let's get to where we are in the market then, and just my perspective on this. So in terms of where we are, we've seen how the market has been. It's gone down. And I'm trying to look at this from like a very, as I say, a realist perspective. I'm not trying to be optimistic. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm really just trying to be neutral and just looking at it how I see it. I've been in a bear market. I've been in a bull market. I have heard reasonable perspectives as to why this could be a, delayed bull market. Now, the thing that I will say with this is, if you ask me in terms of like, are we in a bull market? Are we in a bear market? To be honest with you, I don't care, right? Like, to me, I look at it as, all I know is that we're not making money right now. So whatever you want to call it, it's all semantics to me. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be here arguing whether it's a bull market or a bear market. All I know is that we're not making money. That's all I know, right? All I know is that the price is not going up right now. And that's what I care about. Not like, am I right if it's a bull market or a bear market? That just doesn't matter. So for me, the way I see it is this. I have heard people make arguments, plausible arguments as to why it could be a delayed bull market. But we are seeing the price action that would indicate a bear market. We are, because you're seeing now cryptos go down. like literally 70% to, 90%, where, cryptos would act in a bear market. Like that's when they lose that kind of percentage gains. And also, we do know that in the previous bull run that we've recently had in 2024, at the end of 2024, well, leading up into 2025 as well, it was October when obviously Bitcoin lost its footing, which I believe it was a manipulated event, but we'll leave it there. We didn't see an alt season, right? So we had a few select coins that went up, and XRP was one of them, but it really didn't have its normal euphoria blow off top. That didn't happen. So this is definitely, when people keep saying, don't say this time is different, it definitely feels like it, because it feels like we've had a bull run without an alt season. Now, if that's because it's delayed, okay. But if you was to ask me, like, if I was forced to make a choice, what are we in, a bull market or a bear market, I would say a bear market. Personally, I would. This is not, to me, an indication of a bull run. It's just not. Now, I hope I'm wrong in that regard. Like, and I'm not saying that's what I'm saying it is, because I don't know. Like, I really am on the fence, because there is a plausible explanation as to why it could be that we have a bull run like into next year. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not hanging my hat on that. I'm really not, because just if I go by what I am seeing at the moment, it doesn't give me that kind of vibe that this is just a bull run. Like we're losing way too much percentage gains in these cryptos, and some cryptos have not even moved since we was in the previous bear run. Like I've got cryptos that even when, we was in the peak of 2025 with Bitcoin at like $126,000, some of my cryptos have barely jumped up at all in percentage gains. So this isn't a thing where the whole market was roaring or anything like that. It was very specific. So for me personally, if you used to ask me where we are, I think we're in a bear market, unfortunately. That's what I think. Again, like I'm not a chart analyst or anything like that, so understand that I've got no kind of skill set to say what it is. I'm just giving you my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really want this stuff to happen, because it was so frustrating to be in 2025 seeing the market getting ready like for its last hurrah, and then we literally just lost it completely. And as I say, I feel like it was a manipulated event as well, so it was so frustrating to see that. Like it's not fun. It's not. And I think this is the thing where again, like with Moon Lambo's audience being frustrated, I think because he's always optimistic about it, I think he's not always just accepting like, yeah, this sucks. Like for people who, are in a comfortable position, because, I know Moon Lambo's making real great money off of YouTube alone, and I know he runs a successful business, and he's a holder of XRP, and he's been in since it was like 17 cents. So he's good on all fronts. Like, I don't think he's worrying at all financially. He's in a great position. But for a lot of people who are like depending on XRP, like, yeah, I get it. Like, I understand the frustration completely. I really do. So for me personally, like, I do definitely understand some of the backlash, but I will say, like, Moon Lambo is just someone who is a positive person. Like, I don't think he's trying to do like hype in that sense. I just think he genuinely is a very optimistic person. So I think he really does believe, what the analysts are saying. I think that's his perspective. And, there's a lot of arguments that they do put forward, but I do think this is where it's a bit of like confirmation bias, in my opinion, because we've seen so many things to go against that. And yes, if we talk long term and say, are we going to be okay long term? Yeah, I do believe that. Like, I've not sold my cryptos or anything like that, because I do believe long term we will be fine. I do believe in the end it is going to go up. But my question now is, how long is that going to take? Like, is that going to be another year, another 3 years, another 4 years? Like, how long are we going to be waiting for that? And I think that's where the frustration is coming in from a lot of the, the general audience, because they was expecting it last year. They was already expecting this. And now we're going into 2026. Some said it'll be 2026. Now I'm hearing it's getting pushed to 2027. And that's what I mean. It feels like the goalposts just keep being moved. And I understand the frustration where the audience are hearing this now, and it just keeps changing. So I do get it. So yeah, for me personally, long term, I do think we'll be fine. Like, I don't think this is the end of crypto. I think we can see that crypto is here to stay, and long term, we are going to be okay. But I do think it is going to be a thing of, unfortunately, I do think it is going to be a thing of we have to kind of, wait and see how long this is going to take. And my thing is, I'm not selling because I don't get to pick when it happens. And this is what I've always said. Like, am I happy about this? No, I'm with you guys. It's frustrating. 100%. I would love crypto to take off tomorrow, but that's just not how it works, right? So if I have to wait, I have to wait. So my perspective is I'm going to see this through. Like, I am going to wait. Yes, begrudgingly, but I am going to wait because I do believe long term the value is going to come. I really do believe that. So yes, I do think long term will be fine, but I don't know how long that could take. That's just being honest. So I hope that's helped. And, Matt, I know you're probably not going to see these anyway, but if you do, hope you don't take that as disrespect. I've just been completely fair with what I've said. I don't think I've said anything in a disrespectful way. But yeah, I doubt you'll see this anyway. Alright guys, I'll leave it there. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.